一度言葉にした可愛い子には旅をさせよと経験が教えてくれたのだろう旅から帰れば見違えるほどにさあ旅に出よう世界を知る旅で自分と向き合い生きる意味を探す広い世界で小さな自分を知る答えのない世界に求める甲斐がある旅は教えてくれる世の中の広さ自分の弱さそれでも確かに私はここにいる世界を知り自分を知る旅さあ旅に出よう世界を知る旅へ自分と向き合い生きる意味を探す広い世界で小さな自分を知る答えのない世界に求める抱えがある好奇心を赴くまま旅に出よう本質的な問いを常に抱きながら心配を恐れず自由に体験しようそれがきっと未来の自分を作るさあ旅に出よう世界へ自分と向き合い生きる意味を探す広い世界で小さな自分を知る答えのない世界に求める抱えがある旅立ちの時恐れを手放してさあ飛び出そう未知なる世界へそこで見つける自分だけの答えそれが生きる力になる
All right, welcome in everybody to another deep dive.
Always fun.
This time we're diving deep into location.
One of the most important things
For businesses.
for absolutely everything.
Yeah, and we've got this great conversation between two entrepreneurs that we're going to be unpacking.
Yes.
And it's really interesting to hear how they think about location, because it's not just about like, oh, is there an empty storefront, or, you know, is the rent cheap?
Right.
There's so much strategy involved
Absolutely.
in what they're talking about.
It's really thinking about the customer.
Yeah, and one of them brought up this super cool example of what's called a tia. That's a Japanese tea house that you usually find like on a mountain pass.
Oh, perfect example.
And I was like, that is such a great analogy for how to think about location.
It is, because think about it. You're hiking, you're exhausted, you get to the top of that mountain pass, and then suddenly there's this beautiful little decided to start a takeout barbecue business during the pandemic.
Okay.
Which, first of all, good for him. You know, like talk about like an idea at a time when a lot of restaurants are shut down.
Right.
But what he did is he actually put flyers for his takeout barbecue business at the local laundromat.
Wait, at the laundromat.
At the laundromat.
Okay.
Now, just stick with me here because this is really smart when you think about it.
I'm intrigued.
So people are at the laundromat, they're stuck there.
Yeah.
Their clothes are being washed, they're waiting. They got time on their hands, and a lot of times they're probably juggling, you know, kids and errands, and they don't want to cook.
Right.
Suddenly they see this flyer, like, oh my gosh, I could just order some barbecue.
So he's targeting a specific audience.
Help me understand this.
So at first I was kind of confused, like, why would you put an English school next to a McDonald's?
Yeah.
But she's like, think about it. McDonald's has done all of this market research
Oh.
to figure out where the best place to put a McDonald's is.
Right.
Which means like traffic patterns, demographics, all that stuff. Target market is families with young children.
Of course, because it's an English school for kids.
Yeah.
So smart.
So if McDonald's has already figured out where those families are,
Right.
that's probably a pretty good place to put an English school.
Oh, she's piggybacking on their research.
Totally. And like as an entrepreneur, that makes me think like, what other businesses are doing this kind of like
Yes.
deep market research?
Well, I think that's what's so fascinating about this whole idea location is it's like suddenly you become really observant of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Because now you're not just looking at like, oh, there's a store there, but you're thinking, I wonder why they chose that spot.
Yeah, like what went into that decision.
What's the strategy behind it?
Right. And speaking of strategy, one of the things that they talked about a lot in this conversation is
Yeah.
getting an outside perspective.
Oh, that's so important, and we don't do it enough.
Yeah, because when you're like in the thick of your own business,
Absolutely.
you don't see the things that other people might see right away.
You have blind spots.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I was so inspired by this conversation that I actually reached out to one of these entrepreneurs
Oh, wow.
to get feedback on my own art business.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm so focused on the creative side, sometimes I forget about
Yay.
like the practicalities of like location and
Yeah. Where are you going to reach your customers?
Totally. And what she said to me
Yeah.
was so eye-opening.
What really surprised you about her? It's that experience again. It's like
Yeah.
we're seeing this theme emerge here.
Yeah.
It's not just about the product or service you're offering. It's about how the location itself plays into that.
Yeah, and like how it makes people feel and how accessible it is and all,
And how memorable it
all
is
those things. So sometimes you just need that outside perspective
to kind of shake things up
totally.
and see things in a new light.
Yeah, and speaking of new light,
Uh-oh.
one of the entrepreneurs said something that I think is the perfect lead into our next point.
All right, I'm on.
Stay tuned. Location isn't about where you are, it's about where your customers aren't.
Okay, I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were talking about that right before the break.
Yes.
That whole concept of like, okay, if your customers aren't somewhere,
Right.
maybe that's where you should be.
That's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, because maybe there's a reason.
Exactly.
Like maybe there's a need that's not being met
unmet needs.
in that particular area.
Yeah, and that goes back to because if there's something missing,
Example. example. There aren't any English schools for kids in this particular area where there are all these families.
And she knew that because McDonald's had already done the research.
Right, exactly.
So she was like, well, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I'm just gonna,
Look at what they've done.
yeah, piggyback on that.
And be like, okay, that's probably a good spot.
Makes sense.
So it makes you think, like, as an entrepreneur, like, what are all these other places that are doing this kind of market research? Yeah.
You know, there's reasons.
You know, this reminds me of something else the entrepreneurs were talking about. Is like sometimes
Yeah.
you don't get it right the first time.
Oh, absolutely not.
And one of them was saying how like she had actually moved her business
Oh, wow.
like multiple times
Really?
before finding like the perfect spot.
Interesting. So, like, she was experimenting.
Yeah, and she was like, every time I moved,
Yeah.
I learned something.
You learn something from those mistakes or those,
Yeah.
you know, miscalculations.
Oh, like the first location, she realized she was too far off the beaten path.
Okay.
Like nobody was really going there.
Not enough foot traffic.
The second location, I think it was too small.
Okay.
And then the third
It
location
was just right.
was like the Goldilocks location.
Like Goldilocks.
Like it was just right.
I love that story because it just shows you that, you know, sometimes you have to
Try things.
be willing to pivot, you know, and adjust
Yeah.
based on what you're learning.
And like not be afraid to like fail.
Yeah. Or not even fail, but just like, you know, make adjustments along
Yeah.
the way.
Because like you're always learning as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. You have to be.
So this whole conversation about location has really like
Yeah.
blown my mind in terms of thinking about it so strategically.
It's not just about finding an empty storefront
Right.
and like slapping up a sign hoping for the best.
Yeah. There's so much more to it.
It's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're considering your customers, you're considering the community, you're considering
Yeah.
the other businesses around.
Yeah. And even like, you know, the vibe of a place.
Absolutely.
Like what is it like to be in that particular area?
Yeah, does it fit with your brand?
Right.
Does it fit with the feeling you're trying to create for your customers?
Yeah.
It's so much more than just, you know, the physical space.
So to wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I think like the biggest takeaway for me is like
What's the one thing you want listeners to remember?
just be observant.
Yes.
Like really pay attention to the world around you
Observe your surroundings.
and look at the businesses that are doing well
Yes.
and the ones that aren't doing well and think about why.
Ask yourself why.
Yeah, because there's always a reason.
Absolutely. And you can learn so much from that. Whether you're an entrepreneur or just someone who's interested in
Yeah.
how the world works, you know.
It's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out.
And there are clues everywhere.
Yeah.
You just have to pay attention.
So pay attention, everybody.
That's right.
That's our deep dive for today.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time. 3 times she moved
Wow.
before she found the right spot.
That's amazing.
And she was saying that each move taught her something.
Okay.
So it wasn't like wasted time.
Gotcha.
You know, it was like each one was like a stepping stone.
Makes sense.
Like the first location, she was too far off the beaten path.
Yeah.
The second one was too small.
Okay.
And then the third
The
one.
third one was just right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And she was like, oh, that's when I knew.
This is it.
This is it.
I found it.
Like, this is the spot.
Wow. And to be willing to, you know, move 3 times,
Yeah.
that takes guts.
Yeah, it does.
And a lot of entrepreneurs don't have that. They think, oh, I got to stick with this first location, you know, maybe it'll get better.
Right.
But she was like, no, if it's not working, it's not working.
Yeah.
I got to keep trying until I find the right one.
I feel like this whole conversation has been like reframing how I think about location.
Absolutely.
Because it's so much more than just like, oh, is it a busy street or, you know, what's the rent?
Right.
It's really about like understanding the nuances of your business.
Yes. And understanding the nuances of the area,
Yeah.
like the community.
あれからいくつもの季節が過ぎお互い違う道を歩んできたけれどあの日の君の笑顔は今も心に残っている街角で見かけた 張りっぱなしで熱くなる半身悪数学のノートの垂着何度も書いているよまた一人きりな夜届いた DM 生きてていいんだって回るループしてるあなたの声どうしてねどうしてどうしてねどうしてチクタク時計の針が目覚まし時計想像する美しい女性行ったり来たりの二人の関係会話に誘おうか迷ってばかり辛すぎない既読するあなたとの3年目のクロニクル口
いやー変な音だな。
なんと